Good morning and welcome to the CEO podcast. This morning, President and CEO Anthony Antone welcomes the State of Washington Tourism Executive Director David Blanford to talk about the new brand for tourism in the state. And they are joined by Senior Director of Communications, Lex Nepomuceno. Today's episode is brought to you by Adesso. If you would like to find out how Adesso can help you file for the Employee Retention Credit, visit adessocapital.com/Washington-hospitality-association. I'll drop that link into the chat for you. We have set aside a few minutes at the end for questions. So if you have any, go ahead and type them into the Q&A section you see at the bottom of your screen. And also, we are recording this today for anyone who misses the live show. If you have Alexa and would like to listen to this podcast later this afternoon, try saying, "Alexa, play the latest episode of the Washington Hospitality Industry Podcast." It also works with Siri. And with that, I will hand this off to Anthony. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, Lisa, and welcome, David and Lex. It's great to have everyone here for the podcast. I love that Blanford tripped you up, but you flew through Nepomuceno.
Right?
So the easier name to say is apparently Nepomuceno.
You know, mine's Weinberger, so I've had hard last names my whole life.
Let's give everyone a chance to come on board here like we normally do. I usually kind of do a fun little trivia thing that kind of goes with the theme. Can you hear that song okay, Lex?
Yeah.
We don't name it, but the song's too easy. The band's too easy. Which one of the Beatles wrote this song? So first one to put that in the chat, I will take to lunch. All right. Apparently that was really easy because Clayton was flying. So I think Clayton was the first one in, right? Yep, he was the first one in. So Clayton, I will gladly take you to lunch. It's actually kind of become one of my favorite parts of the podcast is I get to randomly take someone from the industry to lunch. So, hey, by the way, and as a reminder, I know many of you have my cell phone and you like to text me your questions. I actually put my cell phone in the other room, so I am not staring off of my cell phone during the podcast. So I did play Here Comes the Sun because the masks have announced that they're be gone on the 11th. All the vaccine card checks are going away. The remainder of the mandates will also be gone by the 11th. And barring a new variant or a new thing, we're going to move into doing business versus worrying about panicking and change and all those other kind of things. So we'll still have headwinds. I consider this more like spring. The song reminds me of spring more than summer. And in spring, we have sunny days and we have stormy days. But the point is we're getting better. And I think that's how we're moving forward. I can't think of a better way to do that than talk about our new tourism program moving forward and thinking about that. But first, let's get in a little bit of the news. And we are going to open the podcast with walking through the four things, our pillars. On our best day, we do four things for the industry. We provide great value through our programs. We help our workforce succeed. We are your primary source of industry information, and we protect and enhance the business climate that you do business in. So, news on the providing value front. Our sponsor today is Adesso, which is great. Lisa and Lex, I got to own, when Lex and another member of our team first brought me the Adesso program, I was a skeptic. I'm like, come on, this is too complicated. This doesn't work. They really had to talk me into it. So you ever had the thing like someone wants to put a new menu item on the menu and you're like, it's not going to sell, or you have someone say, hey, let's host a comic group thing in our thing and it'll be great for business. And you're like, comic books, really? And then like, it rocks. That was the Adesso program for us. We just crossed the $11 million in refunds for our members. So Lex, to you and Stephen and the members of our team who brought that in front of us, thank you. That program has exceeded my expectations and erased all my doubts. So thank you for bringing that forward. Also in the biz dev, in the value area, we added a new MEC plan in the past month to our healthcare suite. And so really excited. That program's actually gotten a good initial traction. It's got 3 tiers. It includes a variety of offers. And so the healthcare suite's also been a great addition to Value. Goes with the other new things in the past few years of the Virtual Plus and Healthiest You. So if you're curious or checking out different healthcare options for your team, Lisa, one more time, as they have any questions on the podcast, what's the email that they will send an email to after they're done listening?
Podcast@wahospitality.org.
So complicated. Podcast@wahospitality.org. On the helping our workforce succeed side, the Burton Shaw Lecture Series and Hospitality Week is next week at WSU. So I'm sure many of you have got team members going over to meet the grads from WSU, the incoming students, and all of that. So I will be there for the week. And so if you're over at WSU and talking to hospitality programs and want to text me, I'll come find you. Let's get together and meet somewhere afterwards, maybe the Coug, to give Bob's place a plug, to enjoy a beer while we're there. Also, at the end of this month, we've got a Pro Start competition coming up. Much scaled down version. A lot of the classes couldn't be held because of COVID and other stuff, so there'll only be a handful of teams competing this year. But the point is, it's back after a 2-year waylay. If you don't know what the Pro Start competition is, this awesome, basically Iron Chef competition with high schools across the state that compete with their menu concept and items, and winners go on to nationals. So small step back this year, but back, and then we'll build on it for the future. Other information, Lex, let's break up my talking. What's going on in our information side that people should be aware of to get the most value out of their membership?
Well, as of March 1st, the new food code for the state rolled out. However, it isn't being enforced for 6 months by the local health departments. We did put together some resources on this. Looks like we have the link up on the chat right now. And so if you wanted to go there, we can go to wahospitality.org/food-code, and that'll take you to the correct address. And so we've updated that with a series of videos that we did with the Department of Health and members of our government affairs team. And it's very helpful. So we walk everybody through the different stages and the different things that you need to prepare for. However, you do have 6 months before the local health departments start enforcing. So that is in effect as of today, as of yesterday. Also, we put together supply chain continues to be a big issue for a lot of our members. And so we have continued to update our supply chain toolkit. We'll also be putting a link to that on the chat here. But basically, that is an ongoing challenge for our members, and we continue to update that. And finally, our Hero Manual, which we updated throughout the year, we rolled out the latest version just this past month, and that is accessible under the members-only website at access.wahospitality.org. So that's what we've got going right now.
Great. Well, thanks for getting all that information out on the food code. There's a lot of small parts of it, and so I think that's going to be a great resource for us. And again, you've got 6 months to comply, but don't do what we often do, which is wait till the day before. There's some things in here you want to start getting practice at and get good at before the 6 months is up. And thanks to Samantha Louderback on our team for working with the health department on getting that delay. It was going to be fully enforced on March 1st, and there wasn't, because of COVID and the other crises that the health departments have been getting through, there wasn't enough information out there about it. People didn't know what it was or what was in it. So she got us the 6 month delay in enforcement, which is really great work on her part. Also working on, so the last pillar, and then we'll get into our news, is the government affairs side, protecting and enhancing the business climate. This is the last few days of session. We're getting down to the hard count. And if I'm giving you great news of what's going on, I want to let you know of our relief package. We are working hard on getting you relief from the things that have been going on this session. And for those of you who are watching live, I'll bring up my screen. Okay, So our relief package we're working on in the last few days has got $15 million in assisting hotels who struggled with the cost of the eviction moratorium. We've got $200 million in bridge funding for the federal relief and $7 million in reducing liquor license fees. So all of these things are in the conversation in this last week. The Senate has 2 of them, but not the 200 million. The House has the 200 million. And so this is now going to be where the negotiators sit down and figure it out. Lisa, if I guess I could copy, if you're interested in contacting your legislator and saying, please pass this relief, it's really important to us, I can put that in chat, but you can also just text or email Lisa at that podcast at wahospitality.org, and she will get this to you so you can fill out that action alert. Also, in the last few days of session, on the defensive side, we're working on ergonomics. And so there is a big ergonomics rule that might cost the industry 200 million that the 200 other million in reserves could face. So we are trying to find the right solution for that and working with the legislature. Business community is pretty united on this ergonomics piece. It's the big defensive piece that we're worried about here in the last week of session. Also, in exciting news of what's already passed, on the way to the Gov's desk is a big unemployment insurance relief package, which will save about $200 million in unemployment insurance rates. And so excited that that has passed, assuming the governor signs it, which we have every indication that that is going to happen, then we will reissue the ESC will reissue your UI rates in April. So when you make your UI payment at the end of April, it'll be lower than what you think it will be right now. So great work by Julia Gordon and our team in finding the right solution to keep our UI rates low. And that will be, again, $200 million in additional relief. So great job, team. How's that for news, Lex? A lot going on in a month.
It's a busy month.
Oh, I didn't even mention the federal stuff. On the federal side, RRF is in final negotiations. So Restaurant Revitalization Fund, in case you don't have acronyms memorized. It's getting tougher. If you ever watch analytics, Lex, you know when you watch football and they say you're looking online and this team now only has a 30% chance of winning, where before that last touchdown, it was like a 40% chance of winning. It's getting lower. So the good news is there's still a chance. It's not like a 1,000,000 to 1 shot. It's in the mix, but the odds are dropping. I think Sean at the National Restaurant Association is doing an incredible job in keeping that issue at the forefront. But please keep contacting your congresspeople on that, and we'll go from there. The National Restaurant Association and the American Hotel Association are also working with the IRS on ERTC and your tax filings. So all 50 states just sent a letter to the IRS saying, until you catch up on the ERTC payments, speaking of Adesso earlier, don't delay our taxes because they go together. And we don't want tax penalties that would be covered by the relief that we're about to get. So that is also in the mix of what the national organizations are working on. David, as a first-time guest to the podcast, any questions on the news that you're like, I had no idea, or you think some of your members might need clarity because I spoke way too fast on a piece of this?
Well, no, I'm just really impressed by how many initiatives you have going concurrently, and the government affairs and industry advocacy is really phenomenal and sustained. So kudos to you, kudos to the whole team, and kudos to hospitality in general for weathering these difficult years and continuing on.
Well, thank you. It's we're blessed to have people like Katie and Sam and Julia and John and Austin who do great work on our behalf. We're really lucky. Lex, anything else I should cover before we get to our guest here and talk about the positive things?
No, I think that's it, Anthony. Great work.
Okay. Well, I do want to invite David Blanford here. And David, let's just have a great conversation of what's in front of us. Earlier this year, you rolled out the brand new brand of the state. And you've been slow rolling it out and getting, I mean, you've been rolling it out there, but trying to pick your shots as we move forward. For our members who don't know what's going on, give us the exciting news and what they need to know about our new brand as a state that will attract tourists here to fill up hotels and fill up restaurant seats.
Well, it sure is exciting, and it was a long time coming during the pandemic, but in some ways the pandemic afforded us the time and the deep conversations needed to address something that had been missing for 10 years. The State Tourism Office was closed back in 2011, and no destination branding for the state had been done since. So we had a dark decade there where we were very conscious that we were losing market share to other states who had very strong brands and revitalized brands and consumer marketing programs that supported them. And so we knew that was going to be a core of what we would have to do to restart a statewide tourism marketing program, build a destination brand that is modern, that will take us to the next place we need to be, compete, build back market share. And so we worked for probably a year and a half to investigate, to procure industry voices from around the state, stakeholders. We did a lot of listening. We put a national RFP out for a brand development agency, found one with offices here in Washington and in other places called Adventure. As part of that adventure, they very much looked at it in that way. So the namesake rung true. And what really, I think, put them over the top for us in the selection was that they said, we really need to not create something for Washington, but rather uncover what is authentically there. And to that, we said, absolutely, that is what we need. I think maybe that is what has been missing. When we hired them, then there was a very extensive process where we looked at the competitors. We looked at some of our challenges here in Washington, our name, lack of market share, messages in the past that maybe haven't resonated, which ones would resonate in the future. And what we then built, especially the last 6 months or so, I think is one that is really broad, reflects the whole state, is a very modern take on what a destination brand can be. And we launched it, we almost launched it back in October, November, but with Omicron, we decided to push that out a little bit. So really, January 4th was the launch.
I've got some slides back here if you want me to bring them up. And for those of you listening, you can email us and we'll get you either the slides or a link to David's site so you can see all this cool stuff going on. But give us the highlights. And again, I'm showing the screen and not my email, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, you are. You're successful, Anthony.
All right.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here is a sort of a graphic representation of the destination brand. First point, what is a brand? What is a destination brand? Well, it's really a broad platform on which we can build marketing and communications programs. It's a way of encapsulating what this destination is. And that is everything from a name, which we are saying is the state of Washington. That's the state's official name. We're no longer using Washington State or just Washington because we want to be clearer than that. We want our consumer audiences to understand exactly where in the world we're talking about. We also think that name has a certain import, having more words than less, a capital T there at the beginning. We also think that there's a double entendre. The state of is not only the state of Washington, but a state of being, a place in the mindset of the consumer that they can be, a travel experience they really want to book. Other elements here, you're seeing a little bit of old data here in terms of URLs and such, which we have since these slides were created, have righted. So the new name for our tourism office is State of Washington Tourism. And our URL is stateofwa.com, stateofwatourism.com, sorry. You'll see a logo here, the circular one, but there are variations of that. Other elements here, you will see some great photos that are varied from different parts of the state. It's important to tell the whole story. You will also see some vibrant colors. These are rooted in nature, but amped up to reflect optimism, the can-do spirit of the state, the creative culture that exists here very naturally. And then you're beginning to see messages as we're looking at this current one that I think very much reflect the core message of this brand, which is that we invite visitors to come, to immerse themselves, to be a part of this state, but to do so in a very responsible way, to understand that this authentic place, the authentic cultures that are here should be respected. And they as travelers would want to learn and understand and connect with those cultures. The brand is not so much a big welcome like you would expect a Las Vegas or an Orlando to do, but much more of an inclusive, come as you are kind of a welcome. That we are who we are as locals. The state is authentic, has its own place, and we want you as travelers to feel welcome, but also to respect the destination. Ultimately, this is really about transformational travel. So this is a destination we're promoting, but we're also promoting a way of seeing it and being a part of it, the travel experience, if you will.
Dave, let's get into that because I'm really excited about it. You and I have been partnering on this for a long time, and in getting the funding and getting the stuff. And this is an area where I've always said I want to sit on the getting you money side because I don't get marketing. I mean, I know it's important, but to some degree, it's not what I truly understand. But I'm so excited about this, and it's cool that a marketing campaign would get me this excited. If the average operator or GM is listening, and they're probably closer to where I am than the true mastery of marketing that you are, what should they know for how this new campaign is going to impact their building? What would you hope they would take away from this podcast if you gave them like 2 or 3 things to really be aware of that could help them moving forward?
Yeah, great question. I'm glad you asked it. And so when we say campaign, of course, what we've been looking at here is really the brand platform on which we build campaigns. And so very specifically, the consumer campaign that we have rolled out initially as a part of this brand is called True to Nature. And you see the hashtag there at the bottom. True to Nature is part hashtag, part slogan, part concept, I think. It's a little undefined, but I think really rings true based on the description I just gave you. We're saying that certainly the experience here and Washingtonians are true to nature. They are who they are. They love nature. They love gateway communities and indigenous communities. They respect our values. But travelers would be a part of that too. They are true to nature. They may come as they are. And so I think we do have some of the other slides. Anthony will show some of the creative, the digital. There you go, some sample digital, for example, with the call to action really true to nature, and an updated URL where they can find us and learn more. Ways that they can be a part. Well, know that this campaign is out there now. It is for now, really now through June. It is a part of a $2.6 million consumer campaign that is seen via digital and TV and other areas throughout most of the Western US. That would include nearby feeder markets like, say, Portland or others, but then farther afield too, into California and other Western states, British Columbia, Alberta, the lower mainland of BC. How can they be a part of this? Well, number one, learn more about it. Think about ways that you can be a part of it in easy ways like social media by sharing the hashtag. Share your own images. You can amplify this message. You can make it bigger. I think you also then can drive more eyes to your own business through this. There is coming very quickly what we will call a brand toolkit, which will have a lot of these assets that are shareable for the industry. And if it is helpful, then operators can use those as well, as in the same way that a destination marketing organization or a chamber of commerce could too. Additionally, there are other tools that are available, like some of these new images you're looking at, and many, many more, hundreds, if not thousands of more images that would be available to operators to use in their own marketing. They can find those at experiencewa.barberstock.com. It's our online portal to download and use images. If anyone wants to learn more about this consumer campaign or find ways that they could become yet more involved than that, certainly go to our new industry site, which is industry.stateofwatourism.com, and contact one of the staff members who can tell you more. Most specifically, our marketing team can elaborate further and tell you about some other opportunities coming up.
So David, for most of the people listening, they'll be listening in their car later. So let's do this. If you want to learn more about how your business can take advantage, send the podcast at wahospitality.org. And then maybe you can get to Lisa like an email that says, boom. And then we'll send that all these different links out to anyone who asks about it. Because today's marketing is so much different than the 70s or 80s, right? Where you had one TV commercial, 2 or 3 images, maybe a brand you put on everything. Now it's so social media driven and organic, and needs to be authentic to truly work, that a lot of this stuff to really be successful is going to build upon what you've done here, but then make it a little bit their own in their own community. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, well said. And I think the key word is that the marketing and the campaign is integrated across multiple channels. The other aspect, again, is that so much of this is shareable, engageable, that the industry as well is invited to help promote, participate, use some of the brand assets for their own marketing as well. And going forward in the post-COVID world, it really has to be that way. We need to work in tandem. We need to work in partnerships. We've certainly got a lot of ground to cover, and so many of the Western states they're miles ahead of us. And so working this way, I think, is the smartest way to build back.
Well, and we want to get we're starting here a little humbly as far as dollars go.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to work together to really get the biggest bang for the buck and to prove to the legislative world that a small investment here has big turnaround for tax dollars and community building and jobs. And so we can make a big difference. Couple things. If they have, one of my favorite things about your campaign, and I got a lot of them, I love True to Nature, because it can be the can I say hipness, or does that make me old? The raw parts of or the urban culture of being true to nature, and then the outdoors of truly being in nature. It has that way to go a bunch of different directions. The other thing I really like is in the top left corner of most of these photos, there's a longitude and latitude. So when you see something and you want to know where it is, you can put that in there.
Yeah.
Is that something we'd encourage people as they're taking communities of their restaurants or a great mural or an activity, that we also are putting that little longitude and latitude in the corner of our pictures?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you drew attention to that. It's a little hard to see here on the screen, but other applications will showcase that more. The intention here is that, Washington has always had this name that is shared with other destinations. And so it's confusing in the consumer marketplace. So we realized in our SWOT analysis, as we were developing the brand, that we really need to find a way to be more specific. The name is one way, the state of Washington. Other ways would be longitude and latitude. And we might use that as we look at this image here. This is the enchantments in the North Cascades, for example, but You know, that demarcation can happen all over the state. And we might have fun as we go on with the campaign here about educating people on geography. When you think about it, the geography and the topography and the just sheer diversity of the state of Washington is phenomenal, from temperate rainforest to wine country to the Palouse, so different and varied. And so what better state to explore longitude and latitude and weather microclimates and really have fun and begin to subtly educate people. Absolutely. Your members and the industry in general can follow this lead and play with this as well.
So again, I'm listening to this. I would guess there's 4 takeaways, but David, you correct them if you give them different. One, we're launched. All these things that you see in other states going here, and you've been irritated because is Washington being promoted in other states? We are now rolling, and maybe not as big as we want to be, but we're rolling, and it's great. You've done good work. 2, the hashtag true to nature. So when you're promoting your area and you've got a great shot of your view or the sunset from your property or something going on or the kitchen, true to nature, learn your longitude and latitude so you can plug that in and be part of the larger campaign, and get involved with driving tourism here in Washington and filling our properties and having those properties guests fill up our seats in restaurants. And so you can do that by learning more about us as we go, and Lisa will get you that information. Is there any other takeaways for the simpletons that you would want them to know?
Well said, Anthony. Only that we should be excited by this. We've waited a long time. The pandemic didn't help, but we're going for it now. We're out there, as you said. Again, it's a multi-million-dollar consumer campaign. It's being seen in California now, in Oregon, and other Western states. We heard from people who were watching the Super Bowl and said, wow, I just saw your ad. It makes me want to come to Washington. And so know that it's out there. You may not be seeing it as much unless you go on YouTube or something like that and it pops up. It's out there. Others are writing back and saying, hey, it looks fantastic. It's nice to have you back, state of Washington. So we would hope that you would be advocates with us, marketers with us, communicators with us. We're really inviting you. And this is right at the start. So we're a little bit rusty, all of us. We haven't really been as mobilized and well-funded over the past 10 years, but going forward, this must be a partnership. You all must like it, be a part of it, and we need to make sure it's driving business to you.
And your television ads are in the are on your site, right? So if someone wants to go grab a YouTube thing and put it in their own social media and say, hey, come to Washington, look at our new ads, they can go and get that as well. So Lisa, let's include that in the links that we send out about how people might be able to view some of the ads being seen in other states. David, I can't thank you enough for your leadership. It's been such an honor to work with you in the past several years of bringing our tourism office back here in the state of Washington, and what we've had to do to get here in a very unique way. I really appreciate your leadership, and I'm so thankful you're at the helm of leading our tourism effort.
Hey, Anthony, I have to throw it back to, that's no fair. You're stealing my thunder. We would not be where we are without the Hospitality Association. And Anthony, especially you've been such a champion from the very start and in the darkest days. And so literally we would not be embarking on this really important journey in destination marketing without all your efforts. Thank you so much.
Well, it takes a village, and now we need our village to be hashtagging true to nature and reposting videos and helping us get the word out. So everyone, spring is here. Here comes the sun. There'll be a couple of rainy days. I know we got headwinds. I'm not ignoring the tough things that are in front of us, but you got to have a little hope in this industry. And let's move forward with that in March. Good luck to our GA team in closing out session, and we will talk to you next month. Have a great one, everyone. It's an